Good day, YouTube viewers. I have in the past made a couple of videos about board games, or I've mentioned board games in my videos anyway, as I am a collector, as you can see from my shelf behind me. And I do enjoy them. I'm not a big collector, but I do enjoy. I've got into the board game thing. So I thought, in the vague theme of my top 5 stuff that I occasionally do, I'm going to try and make that a thing. I do my top 5 board games, but only the top 5 board games that I own. So this is my top 5 favourite games that I own. For example, Small World is one of my favourite games of all time. I absolutely love Small World, but I don't own it. Small World might in fact be my favourite game ever. Might be top of my top list. But yeah, I don't own it because our group's relatively small. Our gaming group, we tend to all meet together. I do game outside of it, but we tend to meet all together. And one of the group has got Small World and all the expansions. So it's got the whole thing. So there's really no need to have a second copy in the group, even though I love the game. But anyway, yeah, these are the top 5 games of that I own. Number 5 is Werewolf Inquisition. My little group really loves the traitory games, and it's always good to have a few quicker games to do in between things, or when you can't decide what you want to play. But we really love the traitor elements in games, and Werewolf Inquisition is a great little compact version of Werewolf that you can play with only a small group. I mean, it plays as few as 3. And I've played it once with 3, and it was kind of odd. It worked really well, but it's quite a different game with only 3 players. But it's somewhere between Werewolf and the Resistance in terms of gameplay. It's just sort of in the middle. But the idea is the players are are the Inquisition, or a little group of the Inquisition who have gone to this village to try and root out the werewolves, because this village has a slight problem with people being massacred all the time, presumably. But unfortunately, a number of the players, depending on how many players you play with, a certain number of them, just slightly under half, same as Resistance and Traitors, are werewolves. The Inquisition are attempting to seek out the werewolves from the village and lynch them, whereas the werewolves are attempting to help the werewolves to eat the villagers. And if the Inquisition players can lynch all the werewolves, they win. If the werewolves can outnumber the villagers, so if they can eat enough villagers so that there's more werewolves than villagers, they can rise up and take over. It's my number 5 because it's light. It's probably might be the light. I own Zombie Dice, so it's not the lightest game I own. But yeah, it's a relatively light game. But yes, that's why it's my number 5. Number 4 is Pandemic. Yes, I have the old version of Pandemic. I don't have the new one yet. The only problem I have with the new one is that it's not compatible with the expansions. And I have the On the Brink expansion, or the expansion, not expansions. I have the On the Brink expansion, and if the newer version was compatible with it, so that I could buy it and use this, then great. But it's not. You'd have to buy it and buy the new expansion. But yeah, Pandemic is probably one of the earlier games I got. It's a very famous game. If you're at all into board games, I'm sure you know what Pandemic is. But you are it's a cooperative game, and you are attempting there's various diseases that are outbreaking all over the world. 4 diseases, or 5 if you use the 5th one. And you are a little team that's trying to go around and find cures for these diseases. And you kind of have to have On the Brink. I don't know why you would own Pandemic and not own On the Brink. On the Brink is such an amazing expansion and adds so much. There's really no reason to if you own Pandemic, then you have to get On the Brink. You just have to. We can generally beat the standard game, my group, on the hardest difficulty level at the moment. We've played it so much. It was one of the earlier games I got when I started my collection. So yeah, we can beat the bog standard game on its most difficult level. But when you start throwing in the expansion cards, then that changes everything. We can barely get past the sort of medium difficulty, which I think is like 5 epidemic cards. Once we're playing with a virulent strain, and if you've got the 5th disease in as well, it gets crazy. Yes, it's very quickly ramps up. So it's got so much replayability, and you can vary it so much, or in many different ways. It's a brilliant little game. It's excellent. It's my number 4, obviously. So obviously I love it. But yeah, Pandemic. My number 3, my game's starting to get a little meatier now, is Clash of Cultures. This is one of my newer games. I got it over Christmas. Just gone. But yeah, this is a civilization building game. The objective of this game is to have the most historically significant society or peoples. So it's not necessarily about territory control or having the most stuff. but it is about being significant. So there's things that happen like earthquakes and volcanoes and things, which are technically bad for you, but they're historically interesting. So whilst they do hurt you at the time, they will give you points because they happened. Because people will dig up your society. Oh look, this was fascinating. Load of stuff happened over here. So you have your race of people. You build up technologies, and you go out and explore the land and conquer and then build more cities and then build. Yeah, it's long and it's quite complex, but it's really good. It's really good. So that's my number 3. Is Clash of Cultures. My number 2 game is Terra Mystica. This one here. This box is falling to pieces. That's usually a good sign, I think, of a box falling to pieces, because it means it's been overplayed. We never played this obsessively. Like, say, when I got Settlers of Catan, we played it obsessively for ages and ages and ages. But it's not going to be in my top, probably not even on my top 10, just because there are better games. It's been outdone a bit, but it's a really good game. But yeah, Terra Mystica, we've played quite a lot, but not like I say, not obsessively. But I never not want to play it. I never think when someone says, "Oh, let's play Terra Mystica," I never think, "Nah, I don't fancy that," or "I'm not in the mood." I'm always happy to play Terra Mystica, and I'm always excited to play it as well, because I think, well, maybe the last game didn't go so well. I know what I should do this time, and we can do. And I have heard it, this theme criticised, and that it can be viewed as a tad abstract. So the way the game works is you have a race of people. You have dwarves or giants or nomads or the chaos magicians or whoever you've got, and then you have to build essentially a society with them. You can build dwellings, and then you can upgrade them to trading houses and temples and fortresses and things like that, and you create little cities or towns, I think they're called, and you terraform territories so that you can build in them. So like each race can only build in certain types of landscape, so you have to terraform the land in order to make it compatible for your race. So you're moulding the planet to fit you better. And then you have cult tracks, and which are your sort of religiousy things, and all these bonus points that you can score. It is a points builder at the end of the day. You are just scoring points in various different ways. But I think it does it better than most, and it's got there's that little bit of theme there, and you feel like you're doing what you're doing. But yeah, it's really good. It's really good. But yeah, for me, it works really well. I like the puzzle element. It's quite mathy, and you're trying to think ahead and plan everything out, rather than it feeling like, yes, I'm building it doesn't feel necessarily like I'm building a civilization. Look at my dwarves go, or whatever you've got. It doesn't feel that way. So it's very much is a math game. But yeah, no, I really love it. It's got enough randomness, so you do deal out the tiles slightly randomly at the beginning, so you don't know what powers necessarily are going to be available, and you don't know what the victory conditions, because there's extra points you deal out differently each round. What scores you the more points or bonus points. So yeah, that's and it's kind of just the right level of randomness to make each game feel different. And the races are different. The races do play differently. Some of them more so than others, but the special powers they have and things like that. No, it works really well. Like I say, I never not want to play it. I don't sit there thinking, oh, let's play it. I want to play it again and again and again and again. But when it's suggested and when we do play it, I always think I'm always excited. And the number 1 of the games I own list is Game of Thrones, the board game. This is the 2nd edition. It came out as a 4-player game, and then I think 2 expansions came out that made it 5 and then 6 players. I think that's how it came out originally. But this is the 2nd edition, which is all of it. This is the full 6-player game. Its box is bashed up and smashed and torn and got holes in it and things. And as I say, that's just a sign. That's just how much we played it. We've played the crap out of this game. It's ridiculous. It's territory control, so you have the map of Westeros, and then you have your family. So you can play as the Starks or the Lannisters or the Tyrells or all the there's 6 in total, the Baratheons as well. And basically the game takes place immediately after the king has died. So before Sean Bean has his head cut off. So it takes place then, and then basically what happens is, instead of everything that happens in the books, the six main families, as dictated by the game, just have a massive punch up. So you just build up armies and just have this scrap. And the first person to conquer 7 territories, 7 castles or fortresses, or I think the 7 of these specific places, immediately wins the game, because you have control of the people essentially. And it's the fact that the game does immediately end as soon as someone's accomplished that is makes everything so tense. Like as soon as somebody hits 6, everyone's like, well, quick, ally, we'll ally up and gang up on that person. You do essentially form alliances, but nothing's binding. You say, well, I won't attack you if you do this for me, or I'll attack this guy here if you don't promise not to attack me. I'll make this guy weaker. But yeah, nothing is binding. There's nothing you can directly trade. There's no money or men or anything. You can't like trade resources in any way. So you just kind of have these verbal agreements that you're under no technical obligation to uphold, which is nice, which is quite cool. So yeah, you get to that backstabbing political intrigue that you get from the books. You're probably more familiar. People are probably more familiar with the show. But yeah, you get that the backstabbing element. The houses all have their own unique sets of playing cards, so you have to play like a leader, I suppose, into each battle. So and it's always a character from the show. So you can play Tyrion, or you can play Ned Stark, and you can play people in who all have their own powers that adds to the combat, and they have their own combat scores and values. Well, we've found that the game tends to play best with either 3 or 6 players. It plays from 3 to 6. But it tends to work at the extremes best. 3 players is interesting because you cut off the bottom of the map. Well, the way the setup is in the game, you cut off the bottom of the map, so you can't enter there. The Tyrells and the Martells territories, and just have the I think it's the Lannisters, the Baratheons, and the Starks, if memory serves. And you kind of have a slightly slower build up, so you sort of build up your armies and take over a few territories before you actually start to scrap on each other. And then if one player becomes too powerful, it's much easier for the other 2 to align against him. If only temporarily. 6 player, when you've got the whole board filled up, you're very quickly in fights. You're right on each other's doorsteps. You build up your armies and you spread out as much as you can, because you've got to fight a lot more to get these castles. 4 and 5, they work fine. You're better off finding variants, especially for 4 players. You need to find a variant online that someone's came up with, because the 4-player variant that's listed in the book isn't very good. Doesn't work very well. Mostly because the Lannisters just get destroyed, because they have the least defensible position. Yeah, everybody would like to kill the Lannisters, but they're essentially the most powerful family at this point in the story, anyway. Or they rapidly become the most powerful family, so it doesn't quite make sense why they're so weak in this, other than that people want to kill them. No one likes the Lannisters. It makes sense in that way. But yeah, everything else about the game is absolutely brilliant. It's if you want territory control, if you like risk or things like that, there's something you want, not obviously normal risk, but I'm talking about Risk Legacy or something. But yeah, a decent, good territory control strategy battle game. I think Game of Thrones, you can't do much, and if you like Game of Thrones, then what the hell are you waiting for? Brilliant game, absolutely my number 1. And by far the game we've probably played the most, apart from Munchkin. Maybe we played Munchkin quite well. Actually, no, the quick and short and light games. But as a heavy game goes, because this is a fairly heavy game, fairly complex. It's not that easy to teach new people. You kind of need an entire table of new people to be teaching it to, because if there's 1 or 2 people that actually know how to play, then they're gonna probably walk all over it. But yeah, no, it's one of my favourite. Well, it's top of my list of my games I own. So yeah, brilliant game, love it. And that's that. Those are my top 5 games that I own from my collection. So hope that was interesting. I hope if you're at all interested in board games, and see you'll disagree or agree with me in the comments below, or however you wish to on Twitter or whatever. I'll put my links as I normally do. If you're not into board games, then you know me, then I will happily attempt to get you into board games. And perhaps some of those games that I just talked about intrigued you, especially Game of Thrones, which is awesome. But yeah, no, please do like and subscribe and check out all my other videos, and I will see you whenever the next hell time I see you. The end.